Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, presented as always by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up, and you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not all. Oh, no. Make a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet, and you'll receive a free CHGO membership that'll get you access to all of our great web content, our Discord channel, and a sweet-ass shirt from the CHGO locker. All that for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. We are thawing out from a frigid morning at Fifth Third Arena for Blackhawks development camp. And let me tell you, there were skaters there, and they were playing hockey.
Yeah, bunch of kids.
Drills were being drilled.
And shooting and passing and all the good stuff.
But the exciting news, and something that was a bit of a surprise this morning, the Blackhawks announced their coaching staff, and Derek King is back in the fold.
Yeah.
Him and Kevin Dean, Jimmy Wade, of course, will remain with the organization. Matt Meacham, the video coach, will remain. But Derek King is back in the fold, and I think most people, I know there's some people, sometimes people in the chat, don't really love Derek King, but I think as an assistant in this role, knowing some of these younger players very well from his time in Rockford, as well as having the kind of personality that's going to help with the failures and successes that young players go through, I think it's a no-brainer. It just felt to me as time was going by that it wasn't going to happen. Very glad to see he's back with the team.
Yeah, I was happy for Derek as a person because I enjoy his company. But yeah, I think he's in a good position as an NHL assistant coach. I think that can fit him pretty well. He won't have to be the guy in towns for the team, so I think that's going to benefit him as a coach. And yeah, having the familiarity with some of the players that are left on the roster from last season,
whoever that might be.
We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, being able to relate to some of the young players, I think is good. It's a good thing to have on the coaching staff. And yeah, I'm glad they didn't just kind of give him a raw deal and say, oh, thanks for interviewing, but there's no position for you. And I'm glad that they didn't just shoehorn him into some fake coaching advisory position either. Like, just flat out, he's an assistant, real easy to do, and yeah, he should fit in well.
Yeah, I was happy to see Derek back. I'm a big fan of his. Just as a human being, he's a great guy. And listen, he didn't do anything to warrant being unemployed last season. He was put in the middle of an awful situation, and he actually had this team kind of sort of respectable for a little while there before eventually the talent gap took over. And but he took a team that was in utter chaos and made them simplify things and actually kind of look structured. Mm-hmm. And then they weren't very good, but that wasn't his fault. He didn't put the team together, but he got them actually playing competitive hockey for much of his time here. How many of those games did they lose in shootouts or overtime? He had them playing better than any time they had played under Jeremy Colleton.
No, there's no doubt about that.
Which we're not saying like he had them playing well.
Well, no, they weren't playing well.
Better than what we saw.
He only literally had to take a half a step to clear that low bar.
Exactly.
But he still cleared it.
Yeah.
So no reason for him to kind of get the raw deal here this summer. Very happy that Luke Richardson wants to keep him on his staff. Or else they might have been able to create some new job for him. But, I mean, he's a coach. He's a hockey coach. He doesn't want to be a consultant. He wants to be a coach. And he gets to coach. So I'm going to assume we've never met Kevin Dean. He spent the last 5 seasons as an assistant under Bruce Cassidy with Boston and an AHL coach before that. But I'm going to assume somebody's got to be the bad cop in that locker room. I guess it's Kevin Dean, because we had Luke Richardson here, and he definitely has, an intimidation factor to him a bit, but he doesn't come off as a mean guy. We obviously know Derek King is like your fun uncle you want to hang out with. So Kevin Dean must be the guy that's going to scream at you.
I don't know. Luke Richardson pointed out that he'll be sort of in charge of the defense. Kevin Dean will be. But yeah, I don't know what the dynamic of that will be. I think Luke has that sort of Bears players talk about it a lot with Lovie Smith. It's like you feel like you're letting down your parent if you fail. And I think Luke's got that kind of vibe to him. But trust me, just knowing him from his playing days, Luke can get tough when he needs to get tough, and I'm sure he will. And I think that's why having Derek King on staff is such a good idea, because there's the guy who can be the shoulder for the guys that know him, and he's going to crack a joke when guys are feeling down and keep everything loose. In a year that, let's be honest, like, it's going to be full of losing. It's going to be full of tough nights.
Yeah.
And you need a personality like that in the room to keep things a little bit looser. Narfin on the chat says, I saw numerous posts on the Blackhawks Facebook page about the new coaches, and I don't get the backlash on bringing King back. Wasn't his fault the way the team went last year. Well, your first mistake is looking at Facebook comments, because they're perpetually negative all the time, no matter what. It'd be like, President X gives every American $1 million. This jackass. It's Facebook, so take it with a grain of salt. Right. I think Derek King, whether you were impressed or not impressed with him as an assistant or as a head coach, an assistant is a perfectly fine role for him. Mm-hmm. I think he'll do well.
Yeah, and especially knowing that the team was very content with keeping Anders Sorensen in the head coaching position in Rockford, it kind of shoehorned King into basically you're either going to be an assistant or they're going to have to make up something for you. So yeah, I think being at the assistant level is good for him. I think that's the right fit. I know we got a super chat in here, $2 super chat from Brandon. Appreciate it. How does Brandon. The Rockford coaching staff shape up? Like I said, Anders Sorensen is still the head coach. Yep. He was skating. Peter Aubry, I know, was there today. He'll remain the goalie coach, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the only other assistant they had last year was Jared Nightingale. I know they really liked him a lot, but who knows? The AHL coaching staff, we know Sorensen's going to remain as head coach. As far as assistants, he might get to pick his guys now. Or when you're at the AHL level, assistants are bouncing all around. Guys get opportunities to, for promotions, or get opportunities to become head coaches at junior levels or NHL assistants. So we haven't had an official word on what the Ice Hawks staff is, but definitely Sorensen's still there. I know the organization's very happy with Peter Aubry, and why not? The goaltending has been very good in Rockford the last couple of years, so we'll see who Anders decides to have as his assistant or assistants down there. Usually it's only one, sometimes two, but we'll see.
Well, and we know Kendall Coyne-Schofield's been behind the bench for the Ice Hogs before. She was there today at camp. She's a development coach. Obviously has her playing career still going on, but it'd be interesting to see, if she stays with the organization over the next few years, and when her playing career does end, wonder if there's a coaching position for her down the line, whether it's with Rockford or with Chicago. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of movement in front offices and some assistant coaching, associate coaching positions being filled by women at the AHL and NHL level. And I think if there's ever a person who has the resume that would translate to being a pretty good coach and knows what she's talking about, it's Kendall Coyne-Schofield for sure.
She's it's funny to see her still in playing shape, she's ready to go for the championships, and she's skating along with the NHL players. Now the size difference is huge, but the speed isn't much off, and it was cool. It's cool to watch her navigate through the practices and getting the ear like in a stern way, but hey, I noticed this, try this, and the players responding. Like you said, the credentials of Kendall Coyne they speak for themselves, and if you can't respect that, I don't know, that's a you thing. It's she knows a ton about the game, and I think eventually when her playing career is over, that coaching at some level for sure is in her future. The fact that she's doing it already while she's still actively playing speaks to her ambition in that realm, and props to the Hawks for bringing her in and giving her a shot. And when she calls it a career, I'm sure they will find a spot for her. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. We got a bunch of questions and comments in the chats. We will get to standouts or whatnot from camp in the second half of the show.
Yeah, we've got some
news
to get to.
So we will get to actual who looked best doing the same drills.
Yeah. Well,
I did like this question from Hunter, who says, "Do you guys think the coaches now will be a part of the team when the Hawks are contenders?"
That's the hope.
That's a good question.
I mean, at least Luke Richardson. Kyle Davidson wanted a guy that's not just a placeholder, a guy that's going to grow into the job and be the guy that leads them back to successful times. As far as assistants, come and go all the time. If the Hawks are getting back into some sort of respectability and becoming a contender, you would think, those assistants, Dean and King, would get looks elsewhere.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't work, but the plan is for Luke Richardson to be the head coach when the Blackhawks are back in the playoffs. That was why he was hired to be here.
If they wanted a spot filler, it would have been Derek King.
It would have been Derek King, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the plan. Do I expect it? I have no idea, but Kyle Davidson does, so that's all that matters.
Barring a catastrophic start to the rebuild where it's nothing improves and they're a bottom feeder team for 3, 4, 5 years, then you're looking at coaching changes across the board and maybe even managerial changes. Who knows? But the thought right now is that that's not going to be the case.
Right.
So yeah, if Richardson can be the coach, the head coach to turn things around and bring the Blackhawks back in the right direction, he'll probably stick with the job. And yeah, assistants, they might get other offers if things go well. I think it's rare that you see a trio of head coach and assistant coaches stick together for a long time. So we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, I mean, if things go well, Richardson should stick around and probably be a reason that things are going well.
We've got a lot of time to talk about this, obviously, a couple of years. But when you're judging Luke Richardson and his staff, for a while anyway, it won't necessarily be wins and losses. It'll be, are young players getting better? Are the same mistakes being made over and over or not? Mm-hmm. You're going to look for those small victories in the course of a game, in the course of a week, in the course of a month, in the course of a season, and hopefully all these guys are projecting up, and that means that they're doing their job. Points don't matter right now. In fact, you probably want as few points as you can get to get into the draft. So get high up in the draft because there's 3 potential franchise players at the top of this thing next year. But you just want to see improvement from the guys on the ice. You want to see development at Rockford. It's going to be really interesting to watch. We were talking about it as we were watching camp today. During the season, we're going to have like a check-in on the Ice Hogs segment every week because...
Isn't that the third line, though?
What's that?
Isn't that the third line?
Well, yeah. Well, right now that's what it is. Yeah.
Zing.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the roster right now, the third line is going to be, I think, Josiah Slavin,
right.
And it might be us by the time we get
2
to
fats
opening
and
night.
a skinny. We're gonna put that test to see if it actually works.
Yeah, I don't know, and we can segue right into the roster moves made today. We have all said it on this podcast, and it bears echoing again today. Who is going to play for the Blackhawks this season? Let's spin the wheel of free agency and see who's out there.
It's very interesting. So here's the news if you missed it today. The following players will not be given qualifying offers: Dylan Strome, Dominik Kubalik, Andre Altabramakian, Cam Morrison, Cale Morris, and Wyatt Kalnick. Henrikh Borgstrom and Brett Connolly have been waived for the purposes of a buyout. So those 2 are gone as well. And... yeah.
So Philip Kurashev and Caleb Jones, by all accounts, are the only players who are on the RFA list that will be receiving qualifying offers.
Yes. So as we look at how this roster is going to populate, and this is a good time to remind people that we'll be live Wednesday at 11 a.m. for the beginning of NHL free agency. It officially begins at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. We have corresponded our start time to then, so if any news comes in, we'll be able to react to it in real time.
Going to react to a bunch of crazy deals, I'm sure.
I also think, talking to a couple sources over the last 24, 48 hours, keep an eye out on teams that are up against the cap that want to bring in a big free agent that need to move out a player. And these are the sort of things, like the Peter Mrazek deal, that the Hawks can kind of jump on and say, hey, if your $6 million player is tying you up from signing Johnny Gaudreau or whatever huge free agent you want to sign, we'll take on that contract and that player, and you're going to give us a first-round pick too. Mm-hmm. And then when the deadline comes around, maybe that player gets flipped. And this is the sort of thing that Kyle Davidson's looking to do. He's already done it. You've seen him take on several assets, gain assets by taking on some problematic contracts like Mrazek, and those sort of things. So keep an eye on that as free agency approaches, because teams are going to want to approach free agency with a plan of attack and with an open wallet, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah, I can't imagine, because we were looking through, okay, who are some RFAs that might not be qualified, that might be on the scrap heap, who are some low-level free agents, and it's really bare.
Yeah.
You can get some guys that have played NHL games, but it's not players that you have any value investing in, where the Blackhawks don't even really have that much of a negotiating chip where they can be like, oh, come to Chicago where we're going to be really terrible and we want you to be really terrible with us, Yeah, you can offer them a role in the lineup that they're played well above what their potential actually is. But yeah, I do think now, with kind of seeing the way things are going, the amount of cap space that the Blackhawks actually have right now, with the Connolly and Borgstrom buyouts, you get a little bit more. I know they probably weren't planning on having to eat $5.5 million of Duncan Keith's retirement cap penalty, but yeah, there's an opportunity to go to a team or two or three and say, if you want to give us one of your upper level prospects or a valuable pick, we'll take a bad contract off your hands, and that can fill out a roster of bad contracted players to, hopefully get a shot at Connor Bedard.
Yeah. Come to Chicago, help us lose.
Yeah, that's your selling point.
Yeah,
Here's
really.
$900,000. Come help us lose. That's worse jobs you can get.
That's true. Yeah.
I'd take $900,000 to help.
I would
lose.
take league minimum to give them 15 minutes a night and take all the hits as possible. So Kyle, if you're listening, give me a call.
We got a super chat from Jacob. He says, "What's up, fellas? Go Hawks from California." Thank you, Jacob. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's the question, and you're seeing the guys that are not being brought back here, and I was thinking about it before, during camp. There is no more emblematic player of the he who shall not be named era than Henrikh Borgstrom. He was the centerpiece of the Florida trade that sent Carlson and who was the other one that went?
Lucas Carlson and Lucas Walmart.
Yep. To the Panthers. He was the guy. He was going to be the future. But what didn't he say? The best college player he had ever seen?
Yeah.
So he apparently had only ever watched one college player, which is a problem because he was drafting a bunch of college players.
Yeah, that's a disaster. Thank God Riley Stillman is at least a functioning NHL player.
He is on this warm body. That's for sure.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, just I was trying to do the experiment of what would the lines look like as currently as we know the roster right now. So I have Sam Lafferty with Taves and Kane, Kurashev, Reichel, and Johnson, Kachuk, Entwistle, and Radish, and Jujar Kara, and fill in your kid wherever you'd like.
And there's no guarantee that all those guys are going to be there come opening night anyway. So.
I know.
Interesting things to come for sure. It's a chore for sure. A lot of work to be done, but this is how if you're going to rebuild, this is the route you got to take. You can't go half-ass it. Try that.
Full ass.
You got to put your full ass into it.
Yep.
You can't. You tear it down. This is what he's doing. Some people say, "Hey, we got comments in the chat. Fans aren't going to put up with it." Well, maybe not. The rest of the league is laughing. So what?
I don't know. What are they laughing at? Look, last year,
when the Maple Leafs did this, they were brilliant.
Of course,
they're going after Austin Matthews. This is, Brendan Shanahan has a plan. Out of town, stupid.
Well,
don't read the New York Post for Blackhawk articles. There's my first word of advice.
What they're laughing at is it's Chicago and it's a big market and yada yada yada. Well, guess what? Last year they brought in Seth Jones, they brought in Marc-Andre Fleury, they brought in Jake McCabe, yada yada yada, and they sucked. Mm-hmm. They have been trying to piecemeal this thing since the dynasty started fading in 2016, 2017. You have to do it all the way, and part of the downside of being a dynasty in a salary cap era is towards the end, when you've had these giant contracts and all these guys are old and not as good as they used to be, You can't afford to bring in really anybody else, and you're stuck with these players because they've got no movement clauses and they have huge contracts. So the back end is going to suck and it's going to hurt. This is the only way to do it. And if they get Connor Bedard next year, the league won't be laughing anymore because the Hawks will have a core of some of the best young players in hockey. The 3 first-round picks they had this year, Connor Bedard or whoever they get in that top 3, like, all of a sudden it's going to look very different and start to make a lot of sense in short order. This is the way to go. I don't understand how you, a Hawks fan, would want them to just half-ass this thing and bring in players to sell tickets with no clear path to the future. How are they going to get from where they were before last week? Let's keep Alex DeBrincat on the roster. Fine. You want to bring Dylan Strome and Dominik Kubalik back? Okay. Where is the path forward with that?
Right.
Where is the next star player coming from? You have to you just can't keep doing it the way they've been doing it. It doesn't work. Look at Detroit, who hung on to Zetterberg and Datsuk and their old players for too long, and they were historically bad for 3 or 4 years. And guess what? All of a sudden, Mo Seider, Lucas Raymond, and they already had Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi, who they drafted early in their tank. And now it's all starting to come together. And in 2 or 3 years, Detroit's going to be near the top of the Eastern Conference again if they do things right. And they've got Steve Yzerman running the ship. They're in good shape. This is what it looks like. I know it's hard. I know it sucks. But doing it halfway just does not work. It is a hard cap era.
Yeah.
You can't like backdoor your way through this. You just can't.
I think one of the big things too is understanding that this is a long-term plan, and what the Blackhawks could be looking at is I believe it's the 2025 off season is the NHL's projection when the salary cap is going to bump up in a major way. There's going to be small incremental bumps year to year leading up to that, but as from what I understand, the 2025 off season leading into the 25-26 season is when the salary cap bumps. My thought process in all of this is, yes, 2022-23 is going to suck.
Yes.
And there's a purpose for it. Trying to get the best odds at the top overall pick so you can land Connor Bedard. If you have those top overall odds and you don't get Bedard, then you might fall into Matvei Michkov, Adam Fantilli. We talked with Chris Peters before the draft, and he spoke about the 2023 draft and said not only are those 3 players potential franchise changers, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 others in that at the top of the 23 draft who could be considered franchise altering players. So the Blackhawks going into this position to be really terrible next season and potentially land one of those 3 guys or be in the mix for any of them, that is a goal for the short term. For the long term, it is build up the prospect system, get a couple young guys that you can believe in, hopefully land one of those 3 players, and then by the time you get to that 2024, 2025, 2026 season, you can hopefully have those young pieces ready to go. You can have a couple veteran play. Who knows? They might hang on to a few guys that are veterans. But then when the salary cap jumps, that might be their window, if things are going right, to be, okay, now we're going to go and get the Marian Hossa-esque signing. Now we're going to go get, I'm just going to throw it out there. Austin Matthews is a free agent in that range. If the Blackhawks are building something and have something going quicker than we're expecting, they can go after those big names. They can say, hey, I'm pipe dreaming it, but hey, maybe Austin Matthews is something that the Blackhawks, with that salary cap jump, can throw out there and say, put us over the top.
Yeah.
I think it's all part of this. You really have to look around what is right in front of you. You have to have the bigger picture, because right in front of you is suckiness. It's gonna suck to watch this team not win a lot of games. It's gonna be bad to watch Jonathan Toews probably ask his way out of Chicago. Same with Patrick Kane. We don't know what's gonna happen with Seth Jones, but It's going to suck to see those guys go. It's already sucked to see Alex DeBrincat go for an underwhelming return, but the long-term big picture has to be the view. Because, yeah, ticket prices, all that, empty seats, it's all going to be part of it. But if you land a Connor Bedard and you get the right prospects and you develop them the proper way, the empty seats and complaining about ticket prices and losses, that window is going to be much smaller, and we could potentially be talking about an extended window of competitiveness and getting back into having meaningful hockey games played by the Blackhawks in May and June. That is the goal.
Oh, and then we get guys like Michael in our chat that just wants to take a crap on every single thing and just be completely negative. No pressure, no pressure. Ifs and ifs. Yes, rebuilds and building teams, no matter if you're good or bad, they're all ifs. They're all gambles.
Yep.
They're all risks.
I just don't.
What would you rather have the Blackhawks do?
What's
Keep
the
riding
alternative?
out the 2010 teams here and drafting 23rd? That's not how you rebuild a team.
Right.
That's what gets you in the shit we're stuck in right now. So maybe instead of taking a crap on every single move that's done in literally the first 2 weeks of a rebuild, just let it play out. All right? Keep the negativity at home. If it fails, you can be the guy that comes on and says, I told you Kyle Davidson was an overhead, and we're all pat you on the back and go, way to go. Until then, just let it play out. It's been 2 weeks.
There's nothing easier.
Enough.
There is no easier angle than being a cynic. That is the easiest thing to do.
It's lazy.
It's lazy as hell. And also, cynics in general don't have an alternative. It's just whatever the plan is, it sucks.
Tell us what you would rather
What
we do right now.
is the alternative? What should the Hawks do instead? Bring in top free agents? They did that. It did not work. It has not worked. It will not work. You need to rebuild from the ground up, and the way you rebuild from the ground up is by drafting high. Would you rather tank for a year or two and quickly rebound, or be mediocre for a decade?
I mean, think about if on Thursday the Blackhawks had 0 picks. They had no first-round picks in this last draft, and all of their picks were day 2 picks. Would there be any excitement for the future?
No.
Not at all. Yeah, Nazar, Rinzel, and Korchinski could all bust, but we don't know that yet. They could all hit. I mean,
They could.
You have to.
You also don't have to bat 1,000 in your drafts.
Right.
That's why you add all the.
That's why you get 3 picks.
Instead of buying 1 lottery ticket, you buy 3.
Right.
And your odds are better when you have more than 1. You know what I mean? Like it's.
They had they had 11 picks on Thursday and Friday. If 3 or 4 of them hit and turn into serviceable NHL players, good. There you go.
And there's 1 year, and there's if 3 or 4 hit. There's a quarter of your roster already.
Right.
Handled. You know what I mean? So it's.
And the Blackhawks already have 2 picks in next year's first round, which is going to be one of the most historically deep drafts ever. One of them is going to be really freaking high at this pace. And then you got Tampa's pick. And there are ways that you can maybe get a 3rd or a 4th first-round pick in that draft next year. That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous job. And, Michael, we're not,
Yeah, we love you too, Michael.
we thank you for watching. But it's like, not every other chat has to be horrible. Let it hop on the ride. Let it play out. Stick with us. We're going to vent together through all of this. We have things to be frustrated, but right now is not
There
the
are going to
time.
be 82 nights in
Yes.
the upcoming.
We're gonna have
in the
80
upcoming
82
months
postseason.
where we can
82
wallow in it.
post-game shows where we can sit here and go, what the F, man?
Yeah.
But now's not the time. Now's to be a little positive.
All right, Nate says, I want your guys' take on how you feel about the new scouting system and how they're approaching fleshing out organizational depth. It's too early to
We'll
tell.
find out.
Like,
They
Luke
clearly
Richardson was
they clearly
glad
have
handing.
a type that they went for.
Yes.
And it's not bad to be big and fast.
Yeah, big, fast, and skilled is a good way to go through life. Not, what is it, fat, dumb,
Fat, drunk, and stupid.
stupid is the opposite of
Now
fat.
you tell me.
Yeah.
Son of a
But it is like, to Michael and everyone who's feeling very frustrated about it, and look, it's totally a valid feeling. You invest your heart and soul and time and your dollars into the Blackhawks, and to look ahead at what's coming for the next 24 months at least, yeah, it's going to be tough. And I get it, but honestly, he who shall not be named tried other methods. He tried the half-assed rebuild. Well, that didn't work. Then he tried bringing in the big names. Well, that didn't work. You just have, at this point where they are right now, you just have to tear it down. Mm-hmm. You have to. The halfway thing doesn't work. And like I said, I'd rather go through 3 or 4 years of pain to get quickly back into actual contention than building up for 3 years, then getting in like borderline playoff team, first round exit for the rest of eternity. I don't want the Blackhawks to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't want the Blackhawks to be that kind of a team. I want them to be a team that's talking about another Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. And while nothing in this approach is proven, it is the most logical way to accelerate a rebirth into that sort of... Think about where the Hawks were in 04, 05, 06, before they got Kane and Taves and all these great players. It takes time to get there, and Taves was number 3 overall. Kane was number 1 overall. There you go.
I mean, look at Colorado. Nathan McKinnon, first overall pick. Landon Slagert, was he not a second overall pick?
I think he was a top 3.
Cale Makar,
4th.
Bowen Byram, 4th. These are top 5 picks in consecutive years. Mm-hmm. So this is how you do it, and
you have to build that core, and then you can build around it once you're ready to compete.
Yeah.
And by the way, Taves and Kane are drafted. You've already got Keith and Seabrook and Crawford in the system. They're already developing.
Patrick Sharp is already there.
So those two guys suddenly jump out of college and junior hockey, and they're ready for the NHL, and you've got Keith and Seabrook there already. And all of it, why did the Hawks get so good so fast? They didn't. It took a long time to get to this
People
point.
Weren't paying attention,
you just missed it because you weren't on the bandwagon,
and
which is understandable too.
And Kyle Davis is putting the pressure on himself.
Yeah,
he's saying, "This is me. If this doesn't work, I'm the guy that's going to lose the job."
Well, and that's the thing is like Davidson is essentially taking a flamethrower to the organization and saying, we're going to clear all this out, and everything that we build here is going to have the name Kyle Davidson on it. And whether the house stands or falls is going to be on him. And I'd rather that than him try and piecemeal everything together with the heap of the team that he has been handed from the previous general manager and the front office that it was. I would much rather Kyle Davidson just swipe everything out and say, here's the plan that I have, and here's the blueprints. We're gonna lay it out, and we're gonna build it this way. And if it works, then he gets the stamp of approval forever. And if it doesn't, then he has to wear it.
Bring on the next guy to start rebuild number 2.
So Mike Capper in the chat, first of all, love the dog pick in his avatar. He says, how many teams are going to be active in the tank for Bedard? I feel like that's a whole episode, the rank the tanks.
Yeah, there's going to be
rate the tank. Rate the tank.
So, I don't know if we want to answer that now, or maybe that's a show.
There's going to be 16 teams playing for the Stanley Cup and 16 teams playing for Connor Bedard, and I think by the All-Star break we'll know which 16 are which.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the middle class of the NHL is going to be hell this year, and no one wants to be in it.
Right. But the Blackhawks are definitely.
They're starting.
They're putting their best foot forward to be in that leader.
They are starting early.
Yes.
On the race to the bottom. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah,
I'm ready for 3 more years.
I think Jay, do you need to join our friend there on the patio for a cigarette just to relax a little bit?
Shirtless.
I just there's a lot of people talking about the national response to what the Hawks are doing. Out of town, stupid. It's easy for some ink-stained wretch who half pays attention to hockey because it's his job to look around the league and be like, who can I rip into today? Oh, my God, what are the Hawks doing? It's been very clear since Kyle Davidson took over exactly what the Hawks are doing. He has said it.
The biggest thing is the DeBrincat trade, and that brings everybody's eyes to Chicago because it was the biggest move, and it had an underwhelming return. If you singularly focus on that and you're like, what the hell are they doing? Well, yeah, you can say that. But if you look at the whole picture, you can see the plan that is in place that is going to be starting over completely. And yes, selling on Alex DeBrincat and Kirby Dach as young players who have, high ceilings and potential, yeah, that doesn't look great. But again, this is Davidson burning everything down from the prior regime, and that unfortunately included having to get first-round picks for young players, Alex DeBrincat and Kirby Dach. So if you look at it singularly as those problems, yeah, everyone's going to pay attention to that and be like, what are they doing? Especially when a Canadian team is involved. But if you look at the whole picture, you can say, okay, I understand that that's a weird move and that's kind of an underwhelming return. But look at the entirety of the moves Davidson has made. Like, look at the Hagel trade. Look at the return on Dach was a net win.
Yeah,
I would say, as far as getting a first round pick in the top 15 and an extra pick on top of it. You look at the Hagel trade return and the DeBrincat trade and the Dach trade and flipping Alex Nylander for Sam Lafferty, even as small of a move as that is, those are net wins. So when you put it all together, it looks to me that the Blackhawks are coming out on the positive end, but if you look at single pieces, you can nitpick it to death.
Yeah, of course. All right. I am very surprised by how breathlessly anxious people are about prospects camp reports.
Guys, it's not that exciting.
There's
a reason why we're using the first 40 minutes of the show to not talk about prospect
It's fun.
camp.
But there is stuff to get to. First, we want to remind you, download that PointsBet app. Use the code CHGO when you do. You'll get those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But you make that $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll get a free CHGO membership, a free CHGO shirt from the CHGO locker. All that for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. Make sure you use that code CHGO when you sign up. Been having a good time with some in-game betting. Our play of the week last week was the Cubs plus 3.5 when they were down 3-0, and they won. So over the weekend, I played a couple of those in-game bets. It's a lot of fun. It keeps you engaged in a kind of a mundane regular season game. It can keep things going.
You're gonna ride that play of the week.
I'm just saying, it kind of like I'm like, all right, we did it kind of on a whim because that
was good. Yeah.
Going behind the curtain, we actually forgot we had to do it, so we had to scramble real quick and find a play, and it happened to work out. But I do like that in-game betting because we're in July. Baseball's a little mundane at this point. The games are kind of, especially if you're a Cub fan, it's like,
or
okay,
a Sox fan.
I'm just watching to watch. I'm not going to take any shots. So playing along in-game is great, and PointsBet is the best place to do it. So what are you waiting for? It's time to elevate your live betting game. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for counseling and referral services.
We are also brought
Services, not surfaces.
Services.
I said services. Oh, Lord.
We are also brought to you by Owen, OWYN, standing for only what you need. Owen is a 100% plant-based protein shake that gives you nutrition that works just as hard as you do. All of Owen's products are free of artificial ingredients. They are allergen-friendly. They don't contain any gluten or dairy and are easily digestible. You may have heard about Owen from Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields, who also follows a plant-based diet. Right now, Owen and CHGO are partnering up to give you an awesome offer. You can get 20% off of your first purchase when you go to liveowen.com and you use the promo code CHGO20. Again, that's 20% off of your first purchase at liveowen.com with the promo code CHGO20. So join Justin Fields. Try Owen, OWYN, only what you need.
All right. Without further ado,
drum roll, please.
Development camp. But first, we have a super chat from Darren. How good is Andrew Sorensen as a teacher? How's the development staff shaping up? Remains to be seen, with the fact that it looks like Sorensen will be the head coach in Rockford means the Hawks think he's a good developer and a good teacher.
He got the Ice Hogs to the playoffs when they had no business sniffing a postseason with that roster. He got
youngest in the league almost.
He got a guy, somebody had asked about Michael Tepley. He got Michael Tepley to start performing very well as well. So they're obviously high on him. So we'll see is the best answer I could give you. But we so far so good. I mean, the results have been good so far in a small sample size. So he'll get a full season in Rockford, and he's going to be very, very important for the next few years.
We don't know the assistant coaches, but the development coaches, Eric Condra, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Chris Kunitz, They were all leading the
drills,
charge. Peter Aubrey was we're all leading the drills today at day one of prospects.
Yeah, none of the Luke Richardson, Derek King, none of them were on the ice during development camp, and that's typical. You don't usually see the coaching staff on the ice for development camp. It is the I'm sure they have a hand in what the drills are and what they're looking for, but they're up on the perch looking down and watching the whole thing.
Richardson was he was there, but he was up in the owner's skybox.
Yes, and it's all right. Here's development camp for those of you who have never been there. By the way, development camp is free to attend. Anybody can go. Yeah. And if you come and you see us, come say hi. We met Neil, who's been in the chat a bunch, and Bex introduced herself. Awesome to meet people that. I always still think that my mom is the only one that reads my stuff, so it's nice to know that there are other people out there. So, but here's how it goes.
And Jay met Charlie Romeliotis for the first time today.
That was awesome. Also, by the way, make sure you go to Fifth Third Arena, not the Ice House.
Yes, it is at Fifth Third
Arena.
Not
the Ice House anymore, yes.
Yeah.
Not many
Beautiful
prospects
facility.
hanging out at the Ice House these days. So basically, you get these guys out there. They're all wearing funky numbers. Some of them are really tall. Some of them are not. And they just do drills. So I know you guys, who stands out? It's kind of really hard to be like. Now, there are some guys we'll mention that we're like, oh, okay. But it's essentially practicing, and it's drills. It's drills that these guys have been doing since they were 8 years old. Not a lot of excitement. There may be some more stuff as the week goes on. You get a little idea maybe with some of the lost my train of thought. The one-on-one board battles. You can get a little idea of how guys are good with their body.
You get an idea of like individual skill sets and characteristics and traits of some of the players, but you don't really see it in a game setting. And prospect camp used to be different. A few years ago, every day there used to be a scrimmage to end the day. A few years later, it was scrimmage day is last day of the week. Now, this prospect camp, there's not even a full scrimmage at the end of the week. It's going to be a mini 3-on-3 tournament. So even less of an idea of what these players can do in a game type situation is going to be on display. But yeah, there were a few players. Day one, you kind of just get a sense of each of the individual skill sets and players that you're going to be paying attention to. We wrote about it early this morning on allchgo.com. We each gave a number of prospects that we're paying close attention to heading into this week. So go and check that out. I mentioned it on Twitter today from camp. This is one of the biggest groups of prospects that I remember seeing in the last few years.
They're a lot of really big dudes.
Yeah. Really tall. Most of the really tall ones are also very thin, but it's, these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that, have to...
These are a bunch of kids that just started shaving last week, so we got time.
These are some kids that got to stuff themselves full of beef sandwiches and stuff.
Encased meats, my friend.
There were definitely some standout moments, though, and Nate says, give me some copium. Did anybody have a moment where you went, oh, I like that? For me, there were a few. Drew Comesso made a sick glove save on a quarter rink drill. He looks pretty solid.
Yep.
The guy who stood out to me the most was Ethan Del Mastro.
Yes.
That kid at 19 looks like a seasoned NHL veteran in terms of his body size.
Big. He sticks out as physically.
Yes.
He's got an NHL frame already, and in these drills you're not going to get a lot of contact, you're not going to get a lot of fit, but man, he's going to put somebody through a brick wall one of these days. He threw a couple of hits where you hear the board shaking, you're like, hey, you're not supposed to do that, kid. He is ready to go. That is a physical player right there.
6'4", 210, and he already knows how to use it well. He is a strong kid.
If I had no idea who any of these kids were, and you say, watch these kids do drills for 15 minutes and pick one player that's going to play in the NHL, Ethan Del Mastro is the kid I'm picking.
They were doing some board battle drills, and there was one I saw between him and Wyatt Kaiser, and he pinned he slammed Kaiser into the boards, and almost I think if this was a game situation, he would have finished it, but he almost just dumped him on his back and was just. I think he let up at that point, knowing like, hey, I don't want to hurt anyone here.
Right?
Yeah, but he planted him, and it was one of those hits where. You hear the contact, and then you hear that follow through onto the boards, and you're like, that's a pro hit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Ethan Dalmastro, his physicality, his just strength as a kid really stood out in just some of the battles that they had.
Speaking of board battles, one guy I noticed, Michael Krutil. Every time I looked up at him, he was winning his drill. Mm-hmm. He was taking pucks away. He was winning board battles. He was scoring. Like, he looked really impressive. Frank Nazar had a really nice moment in a drill against a coach. But still, it was, I think Phil Thompson might have tweeted. Oh, no, you know what? James Naveau retweeted the drill. Find at James Naveau on Twitter. He retweeted it. Really nice move by Frank Nazar to spin off a coach and create a scoring chance. The first-round picks, to me, all looked like first-round picks. They seem to be a little bit better than some of the other prospects. And then the other guy I noticed was Philip Roos, who was the international free agent signing last season.
From Sweden.
Big defenseman. He, again, looked like a pro. And he was. He's 22, 23 years old, whatever he is. That's a guy who will actually get a look to make the team this year. And he just seemed to have a more developed mental part of the game, where sometimes you see these prospects and everything's a little bit like harried. You know, like everything's kind of rushed and hectic and
reactive. Yeah.
Yes. He was very kind of calm and just did the little things needed to make the necessary play. And so you saw him not trying to Rudy Rudiger his way through development camp, but to just say, hey, this is what I know how to do. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to make the safe play. So a lot of that stuff from Philip Roos. Those are the guys for me personally that stood out.
I think it's also important to note that this is the first prospect camp that we've had since the summer of 2019. The 2020 and 2021 camps were not held because of COVID and then scheduling issues. So one player that stood out a little bit, and it's going to sound weird, but he stood out, is Alex Vlasic, because his first prospect camp was in 2019, and I remember watching him at camp and being like, I can see where he can go. Obviously, he has the size, but his skating ability was a little raw, but it was good for his size. And watching him today, carrying over from the end of the season where he got into a dozen games or so at the NHL level, and then seeing him today in his next prospect camp, being essentially a man amongst the boys, he looked that way, and he looked like, oh yeah, that's the NHLer out there. So I mean, take it for what you want, but it definitely seemed like he was not in the quote unquote prospects group.
Yeah, the couple guys that I caught my eye, Nolan Allen, 2021 first round pick. He was definitely in some of those one-on-one battle drills. He's definitely a guy that looks like he knows how to use his body well to defend. Definitely physical. That was good to see. That's his exact reasons why a guy like him was drafted. And I am completely drawing a blank on the other guy. Oh, Landon Slagert was another guy. Another guy that, again, it's so hard to judge these on just drills where you're supposed to go to the front of the net. That's the drill. But he looked good. He looked like he knows, again, another guy that knows how to use his body to get inside positioning, a guy that's willing to take an elbow to the ribs to get to the front of the net. And one other note.
Slagert also, I think, the only one that had facial hair. So there you go. There's a day one report for you.
First beard. Congratulations. One other quick note. One of the prospects we were excited to talk to, he was a guest of ours a couple of weeks ago. Jalen Lipin is not going to be doing any on-ice activities for the week. Right. He's in camp. He'll be taking part on all the off-ice stuff. But as we were told by the team, he had suffered a shoulder injury during the CHL playoffs with the Edmonton Oil Kings. So he's not, out of just a precautionary measure, not going to take any on the on-ice activities. So that's a little disappointing. I kind of wanted to see him.
I did want to see him,
playing it safe. That was day one of prospect camp. And
one more guy I want to mention. He stood out to me, and I asked you guys, where did this guy come from? Joseph Serpa from the Kitchener Rangers. He had 69 nice points in 62 games. He was an invite.
He's a camp invite. Yep.
And that dude, I don't know if he's going to make it, but he was doing everything he could to stand out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what you kind of want to see with these players that get invited, it's just like, what are you going to do to stand out? Because everyone else here is here for a purpose. Like, you were brought in to, hey, show us what you got. You got to take that opportunity.
He could be this year's camp's, who was it? Alexander Fortin. Remember him?
Oh, yeah. Good old number 84.
He had a great prospect camp. They gave him a entry-level deal. He played for the Ice Hogs for a couple. He had a few games at the NHL level. So, yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see out of a guy that's just an invite. Say, hey, okay, I'm not one of your draft picks, but I'm going to bust my ass so you look at me.
One player that caught one player that caught my eye, and it's hard to miss, is 6'8" Riku Tohila, who was the seventh round pick from this past draft. He was the naive small town prospect.
Yes,
as the report said.
That was the only thing small about him.
Yeah,
it's the town he's from.
He is all 6'8". Huge. I will confirm. He fills that out for sure. And I would say he plays like someone who is 6'8". It was very long and lanky, and definitely feels like a project. Yeah. I don't know if he'll ever play in the NHL.
A giraffe on skates.
But you take a swing and maybe you get some big bruiser out of it. But he is a project. But he's tall.
Trying to think of a center that has played that big.
I can't think of it.
Adam
is what, like
Adam
6'4"?
Lowry is 6'6", but he's much better than that.
Maybe they transition him to defense. I don't know. I mean,
maybe
that's a big dude to play forward, especially center in the
John
league.
Scott.
And to have to,
there you go.
To have to move as much as a center does. Again, I can't project his entire career.
Why not?
Seeing him for the 1 hour that I did today, I will say the mobility will need to really improve in the next few years for him.
And the other fun thing that came out during camp that people are mentioning in the chat, our buddy Charlie spotted Jonathan Taves walking around the building, and so he was there.
People asking, how was his body language? He was walking.
He looked like a guy who had walked before.
He didn't talk to anybody. He wasn't there didn't seem like he was there with a purpose, just hanging around.
Hanging out,
seeing who these kids that are going to take his job are.
Maybe he was there with a note from his agent. I'm not going to speculate. No,
I thought it was weird. He had a gas can and a blowtorch.
box of matches. Yeah.
I don't know. That was weird.
No.
Yeah, there was no interaction with Jonathan Taves at all.
I didn't see him.
Yeah, I didn't see him.
Yeah.
If he was, it was literally he walked in the building and headed right to the back.
He was just walking in the players area.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't a big,
he wasn't leading drills. He wasn't.
He didn't step out on the ice. Hey guys, let's knock the puck around. Hey, I'm Jonathan Taves.
That'd be cool though. He should do like the old stunt. Was it? Remember Greg Maddux did that with Chris Bryant? Didn't he? Like Greg Maddux, put on a mustache, pretend to be a cameraman, and was like throwing him splitters and stuff. He should have done that. But we got a super chat here from C and Experience. He said, if Patrick Kane, wants to play for another team, what team would you want to see him play for? That's a simple answer.
Ooh.
The one that's going to give me the most prospects and or picks.
That too.
Most desperate team, yeah.
Normally I would say a team in the Eastern Conference because I don't want to play against them. But if you're trying to lose as many games as possible, send him within the division so he could beat your ass 7 times this year.
There you go, Avalanche.
There was some mention of the Avalanche.
Elliot Friedman threw that little nugget out there that if there was the Avalanche apparently called last year to see if there was any interest. And apparently if he's going to want a trade, they're going to call again.
Can you imagine?
Bring it on. I'd watch that.
That'd be fun. Patrick Kane is on the other side of the ice on banner-raising night for the Colorado Avalanche to open the season, I don't know how to handle that.
That would be pain. That would be pain.
That would be a very fun storyline. You trade him to Colorado, and his first game with the Avalanche would be against the Blackhawks.
I do really like the idea. A lot of people have suggested this too. Kane to the Rangers for Capo plus. That gets my interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know he's had a slow development.
The plus has got to be very intriguing to make it make it all work.
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Rangers have been a popular
speculation.
Well,
it's close to Buffalo.
Yeah,
and Panarin's
the Panarin there, but I don't know if the Rangers could pull that off.
I feel like if it was the Rangers, it'd be a deadline deal because I don't know, you can't take on even a reduced cap at a full $5.5 million hit.
And we got a question. What would Colorado give up? I don't know. Maybe you ask for
Nathan McKinnon.
Joe Sakic.
Maybe you ask for
can Joe Sakic be our hockey ops president?
Obviously, you're not going to get a Cale Makar, but maybe you can get a Samuel Girard out of that deal. And then you get their first-round pick, which will be a late first-round pick. But again, if you're getting 3 or 4 picks in this historically deep draft, you're okay with having number 28 or 29 after you've picked first overall. Like, it's okay to have that pick.
I would like a deal involving Alex Newhook. Wouldn't hate that.
No, that would be okay. Yeah, they'd have to give up something that you can
something of value. Yeah.
This year's team.
Trying to pull up their draft picks, but the internet is failing me at the moment.
Wait, I think you mentioned Samuel Girard. Isn't that Tommy Lee Jones' character from The Fugitive? It is.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Yes. He also
Big Dog's always right.
Also a fleet-footed NHL defenseman as well.
One and the same.
All right, looking at the Avalanche for the next 3 years. Next year they have a first-round pick, nothing in rounds 2, 3, or 4. And then a pick each in 5, 6, and 7. 2024, a first rounder, no second or third, 1 fourth, no fifth, a sixth, and a seventh, and then 2025, 1 pick in each round. So they don't have a ton of like that mid-round capital that can kind of put a trade over the top, a second or third round pick.
I don't want any of that.
So it's going to be first. It's going to be prospects.
It's got to be first.
If you're giving up your loan first, that's probably worth it to put a Patrick Kane on the Colorado Avalanche.
Alex Newhook, after next season, will be a restricted free agent.
That's a guy you can add to your rebuild and keep around for a while.
Take a chance on.
How about a Taves for Taves trade? I don't think they're going to go for that.
Probably not. That would be interesting, though.
All right, well, guys, I think it's only Monday. We've got a big week ahead. Cubbies are trying to get on the set.
Are you trying to end our show?
I am trying to end the show.
I like that you've put polka dots on my shirt. By the way,
I thought that you should match the rest of you guys. I don't know.
Awesome. James is the memo on the dark blue polka dotted.
Yeah,
my polka dotted shirt is at the cleaners.
Of course.
I'm not going to move. I want to make sure it works for the remainder of the show.
It's pretty close enough.
While Greg does a Strava read and we can leave.
Before we leave, I do want to.
So the mighty Cubs can get in here.
Well, I do want to make sure
teams are battling.
Any of their prospects do drills today? I don't think so.
I do want to make sure after you talk about the amazing coffee at Strava, I do want to make sure we hear from our friend Frank Nazar.
Yes, that'll be how we went.
Yes. Oh, and I have a quick thing to report, and you reminded me 3 times, and I still forgot. Was talking to a source about okay, they're letting Dylan Strome walk. Why didn't they get something for him? The best offer the Hawks received for Dylan Strome was a 6th-round pick. So the Hawks look at that and say, you know what? Let's do right by the player and give the player some options in his free agency, and those sort of things can pay off a little bit down the road as other players catch wind of that. It's like a goodwill sort of a move. So,
which
who knows?
Not to take up too much of the Cubs' time, but that is something that even as Kyle Davidson is essentially burning things down, at least leaving with some amicability with players that you're letting go, it's worth it down the road.
All right, let's hear about Strava, then we'll hear from Frank the Tank, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, before we get out of here, if you want to start your day with a competitive edge, you need to go and visit our guys, our friends, our pals, Strava CBD Craft Coffee. It's helped thousands of people to improve their overall wellness and quality of life. Strava delivers delicious, fresh, roasted, specialty coffee infused with organic, broad-spectrum CBD. The CBD from hemp doesn't make you high or hungry, but it does offer real benefits that can help you, such as feeling more alert and focused without all the jitters. You're going to be able to live your day more balanced with less anxiety, fewer aches and pains. Plus, including CBD in your routine can also help you get a more restful night's sleep so you can wake up feeling your best. Plus, Strava is all about quality. Everything is fresh. It's small batch. It's shipped directly to your door. And CHGO listeners, that's you guys. You get to save 25% on all your purchases just by using that promo code CHGO25 at checkout. Once again, it is Strava, STRAVA, craftcoffee.com, promo code CHGO25 at checkout to save 25%. And if you already love the product, which you should, join the Strava Coffee Club and subscribe and save. Tell them what you want, when you want it, where you want it to be, and they take it from there. Strava Craft Coffee.
You want to set up this beautiful piece of audio?
Yes, we were able to talk to a number of the prospects from today's day one of camp. Most of them, I believe, were all from the 2022 draft class, which was just constructed last week. Talked to a number of kids, but they're all kind of saying the same thing. But one thing did stand out. It was from Frank Nazar talking about Phil Thompson set up the question. You also hear from yours truly there at the back end of the quote. But he asked Frank about nicknames that his teammates might have. And you just have to smile at this 18-year-old child answering questions from the Chicago media. So here's Frank Nazar from earlier today.
Former teammates have nicknames for you?
No, honestly, it's just like Frank or Nazar. It's just kind of all the same. It doesn't really matter to me. There's a bunch of different forms of Frank, like Frank Glenn, Frankie. So that's kind of, those are only things, I guess.
I thought with your last name, somebody might try something because it's an unusual last name.
No, but I mean, there's room for like open sayings, I guess. So.
You open to Frank the Tank?
Yeah, I don't mind that. Like, I used to be called Frank Sinatra, actually, because it was like kind of a joke, like I do it my way. But that was when I was younger.
Yeah.
So Frank Nazar, when asked, "Hey, you got any nicknames from your teammates?" People call me Frank or Nazar.
Wow, riveting stuff.
So that was good. But I would like to officially make Sinatra the Frank Nazar nickname of the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. So we will we'll maybe get an opportunity to talk 1-on-1, 3-on-1 with Frankie Sinatra there later this week.
All right, we're going to go. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, 2:30, again after Prospects Camp. And reminder, Wednesday show live at 11. I'm Jay. That's Greg. That's Mario. Get the PointsBet app. Use the code CHGO. Thanks, Lawrence. Bye. We love you guys.